money. Now, what I would like to go into, what I think is the trend with our money. Now, in my latest book, that's The Destiny of Our Past, okay, it's a science fiction thriller set during the era of Noah, approximately 12,000 years ago. And in it, money is not something the people handle anymore because they have microchips, and whenever they need to purchase something or whenever they need to go into a building that has a security clearance, the only thing they have to do is, wave their arm across the scanner, and that will take care of any transaction or identification. And I personally think that's the direction we're going. Thus, the reason why the book is called The Destiny of Our Past, because ultimately it's more of a reflection on where we're going in society today. So anyway, moving on here to what I would consider the advantages and disadvantages to a cashless society. Remember, I don't mean that you work for free, okay? Money would just go directly to your account. I mean, there's countries like, the countries in Scandinavia that they don't even use checks hardly at all. Everything's done via the computer to pay off bills. And most people, when they go to the supermarket to buy something or, to the mall or whatever, they use a debit card or credit card or whatever. Most people don't actually handle cash anymore. And I think these guys are the trendsetters, and I don't necessarily mean that in a good way. All right? And I'll explain. But first I'm going to deal with, remember, the advantages that will be used to promote this cashless society. Doesn't mean I support it. I'm just going to go through the advantages, and then I'm going to come up with the ideas as to why it would not be a good idea to eliminate cash. Remember, this is not something, this is not just something that is sci-fi in this sense, because this is, the top economists and planners are talking this way right now. So anyway, first of all would be convenience. Now, I mentioned the thing about the microchip. Just think how convenient that would be. Heck, you could go into a store and, those feelings you get when sometimes you forget your wallet or you took the wrong card with you, that sort of thing. Well, the convenience, if we did have the microchipping that would have to, I believe, eventually go in order to have this cashless society, well, the convenience would be you could actually directly load items into your purse or a bag or car or whatever. Whatever you want to put the items in. And then you would walk out without going through a cashier. Okay, now that'd be very convenient in that sense. No cashier. And you wouldn't have that problem of, just taking all your stuff out and showing it. You'd walk through a screen, and it would just automatically take the money out of your account. Heck, you could put the code on that you're trying on at a store and wear it out as long as you leave the little microchip in. By the way, many clothes nowadays actually have a microchip built in. And so, this would not take that much modification. So, essentially, you have a microchip, your clothes, your items you're buying all has microchips. And another advantage or convenience in this sense is that it would register all the stuff that you bought. And that would mean that advertising would be aimed directly at you without getting a lot of clutter from things that just aren't part of your demographic. For instance, maybe you're 70 years old and you don't really like to see ads for baby food or something like that. It would advertise things aimed at you instead when you get things in your mails or social media and so forth. Now, the other thing is it could decrease crime. Since it would be very difficult to launder money anymore. Your crime rate would go down considerably. You would, people would not be able to have like these scenes you see in movies where the guy at the crack house has this big pile of $100 bills on the table. Okay? Because it would be so easy to track after that. So, therefore, the government could crack down on the illicit use of crime. Well, I was going to get to the downside of that in just a moment, but let me just go on here. So, crime control. And like I said, you'd have this microchip, and maybe it would have all of your information on it, so that if you get hurt, you go to the hospital, they know what conditions you have. I mean, it's just such a utopian premise, isn't it? I mean, convenience, less crime, you get the microchip, that means you don't have to worry about losing your keys, everything's just wonderful. Now let's get to the downside. I said the thing about crime. Now, one thing that this would really, really prevent, and I think that's one of the reasons why governments would like to get into this, is, and it's not really a crime per se, but it is the underground market. And that is a sense of people who barter with each other for items, people who work off the clock, like you got a guy who's a plumber and he gets called at 2 a.m, and you have an arrangement made where maybe he goes ahead and you pay him cash, and then he doesn't put it down, and therefore there's no taxes taken out of it. Just things like your roadside garage sales even would be very difficult without some sort of cash, because maybe you don't have all of the fancy technology and hardware in order to do these kinds of transactions yourself. You don't have something to read someone's chip and so forth. This could be a problem in the sense that people they do like that little bit of liberty that they could buy and sell things on the side. And if it's just a minor thing, they may not want to report it to the government. And, there are people that would say that's a good thing. But then if you're just talking about someone selling some, extra tomatoes they grew in their garden, or a kid picking some apples or making lemonade and selling it at a stand, that would become more difficult in such a society. And again, we see all these videos from America where kids set up lemonade stands and the cops come and crack down on them. Well, the laws aren't different. They're just applied differently now than they were when people had a little common sense 30 years ago, or 40 years ago especially. And so this would really crack down on that, because it'd make it impossible to do those kinds of small microeconomic transactions. Now, another disadvantage is that if you think about it, you could have a situation where your funds could be cut off. Let's say you run afoul of the government or something, and they decide that they're going to come after you. So a good way to bring you in, and remember, this could be when we have a more dystopian style government, would just be to shut off your chip. And then, in this cashless society, how are you going to live? It's going to be very difficult to be able to access any reserves that you might have. Now, on the other hand, something that I just mentioned as a positive thing, the thing about being able to market to you, could be very negative in the sense that all of your purchases, all of your finances, your preferences in everything, if you paid money for it, is now recorded. So you can't go in and, you know, the wife doesn't like it if you drink whiskey or something. You can't go in there and pay with cash at the local liquor store and, use it while on a trip or something like that up to the mountains with your friends. By the way, I don't do that. I don't drink alcohol, but I'm just saying this as an example. And the interesting thing would be then that if you use your card, she could see it. But if everything's cashless and there's a record sent of all transactions, then not just to the government, but also your wife sees what you've been purchasing. So that could be a problem. And again, some people would be like, oh, that's a good thing. But is it really? Do you want the government to micromanage you in that kind of sense? And then also the corporations also knowing so much about you that they could set up a psychometric profile and be able to tell more about you than you might even know? Heck, why go to a psychotherapist? You could just go to a marketer and say, look over my data and tell me what I need to do to have a happier life. Seriously, I'm not joking. This is something that you should consider when you read these stories about the cashless society. Now, again, where it really gets down to how much you trust the government and how much you trust, institutions, large institutions. If you think the government is there for you and all the men and women who serve in government are doing so out of some sort of civic duty and honor, then you're going to think, yes, I can trust them. Why not do this? Of course, if you're one of those people that read things like the Bible or a little bit of history of government in the last 200 years, you may not be so trusting. So I think ultimately this is why you see a situation where this idea of microchipping and the cashless society has taken off more in Scandinavia than it would necessarily be popular in much of the United States. Because Scandinavians tend to have a sense of trust within them. And they tend to trust their institutions more than, for instance, Americans and Brits and French. Because there's different histories, different experiences, so many differences. But ultimately, you get down to the idea that if you feel that government is, for instance, John Locke's idea that government is kind of a necessary evil that has to be there in order to kind of be the referee in the society, you're not going to necessarily like giving this kind of power over to it. But when you have all the financial institutions who are thinking this would be fantastic, it makes their jobs easier, you'd eliminate even more jobs in regards to banking, and you'd have more connection to what people do financially, then you're going to see more of this promoted. And maybe in America you may have a little bit less desire for it because of the high level of religiosity within the population, and therefore the whole thing about the mark of the beast. I'm including that in my next book, by the way. But I think ultimately you're at least going to see this pushed and promoted and marketed to people all over the world, including the United States. And whereas I think there will be people that will hold out, I think a lot of people just like, oh, it's so much more convenient. It's so, and they'll accept it, even with all the dangers involved.
Aussie Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.tv.